mismatch you want already. You'll run a go screen, for example, out of like chest action. You run a go screen, for example, out of like chest action. Is that one, because it creates a driving angle? And two, for instance, if you're targeting Duncan Robinson, even if he switches off the ball, you're creating a new way to attack him?
Yeah, I mean, you're just looking to create advantages, and there's many different ways to do it. You can do it with the mismatch. You can do it by having the guy on the ball and you change his hips. You can do it by creating indecision on communication. You can do it by creating the 2-on-1. So just constantly work to create advantages in many different ways, and go screen is one of those ways that you could do it.
And with Nimi's passing, in what ways has he grown since he first came here? And then especially out of the pick and roll, how much of it is about him showcasing a skill that he always had?
I mean, everything is about showcasing knowledge versus the right coverage. And so he had a couple seam reads versus the 2-on-1 when the big was up that it really helped us. So everything is about just the knowledge on how to execute versus the right coverage. Those plays that you see him make he sets a really good screen versus the 2-on-1. He gets behind the defense, we deliver it to him, and then he makes the right play versus the next 2-on-1. So just got to continue to grow in all those different ways based on the coverages that he's being seen, and it changes throughout the game. So he's getting better at those.
You really like the physicality from the last game you guys were able to match against Detroit. Especially going small, the way you're able to battle against some of their bigs and stuff like that. How has that become an identity for this team and a strength of it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a non-negotiable. We have to be physical. That's just what winning requires. It's not about our team or anything. It's just what winning requires is a level of physicality. I thought there were some moments that we had great physicality in the game, and now we got to take it and apply physicality, apply execution, apply situational basketball, all those things that go into playing good basketball. So we've had moments of all. We just got to work to be as consistent as possible in them. But physicality is a non-negotiable if you want to have a chance at winning.
I think you said you like the awareness of small ball. Like you almost feel like you do some of the things you need to do out there better because of the fact that you don't have a center on the floor.
It kind of naturally heightens that, where everyone has to be able to do it. I think it's just human nature more than anything else.
Yeah. How have you guys been able to be successful in those looks? What are some of the pros and cons you've seen to going small so far?
Success is relative. I mean, I don't know what that means, but there's been good and bad to the lineup. The lineup, we've had moments of forcing more turnovers. We've had moments of being able to play with higher pace, more of a layup attempt percentage has gone up. Our offense is obviously a little bit better. Our defense needs to be better in that zone. I thought threw their rhythm off like that. So it's just a matter of finding different ways to be impactful, and it could change every night depending upon who we're playing against.
As you guys are in a real sound rhythm, and it's 3 games in almost 14 days. Does that factor into the way you?
No, I mean, I think you have to find different ways to get better throughout the season. Sometimes it's by playing, sometimes it's by rest, sometimes it's by practice. And sometimes you don't see the result of getting better by just one game. Just because you had one good practice doesn't mean it automatically leads to a win. And if you win the last game, it doesn't automatically lead to the next one. So really just the process of getting better over the course of an entire season. We've played well, we've not played well, we've practiced really well. Just got to continue to chip away at the process of winning, regardless of if it's a practice game, shoot around, film session. Just get better every day.
What's the most interesting thing you've learned about Jordan Walsh during your time around him?
Interesting. He likes anime. I didn't know that. That's a popular thing there. He did a great presentation for the team on that. So I would say that's probably the most thing outside of basketball that he likes.
Where did you do the presentation?
In the film room for us. Yeah.
Has everyone done a presentation?
Not everybody yet, but just try to learn something about each guy. Jordan picked anime, so that's what I've learned about him.
Joe, you throw a lot at these guys because you have to play a lot of different styles. You don't have the luxury of having one thing to do. What kind of, for lack of a better term, pressure does that put on the guys to retain a lot of that stuff and be able to go to it as soon as you're asking for it?
Yeah, I don't know that it's to me, it's what the environment requires. I think you can only be as smart or dumb as your opponent allows you to be. And so if your opponent is high level and they're making things, you have to adjust at the same rate or you're going to get left behind or you're going to lose. And so it's not really just as much of it's what I'm asking you to do, it's what the environment is asking you to do, it's what the game is asking you to do in the game today. And so, we always say you can only be as smart or dumb as your opponent. And, so you have to have an understanding of going into a game, what a team is doing, and if and when that changes because of how the game is going, how quickly can you adjust to that? And sometimes it happens at a halftime, sometimes it happens at a free throw line, sometimes it happens at the end of the quarter. And so it's not really a pressure as much as it is just a learning, just being able to learn, okay, this is what's going on right now, this is where our advantages are, this is what we have to be able to take advantage of. So a lot of that, you want to try and do in real time, but I think with some of our young guys, you have to do it through film, you have to do it through walkthroughs and situations. I think they do a good job of wanting to learn that,
But the kind of like the teaching style when it comes to that, it kind of feels like it's not as I think we think of it as memorization. my plays are this, and I do this, and I do that.
Yeah.
But
It's not a memorization. I mean, it's a muscle memory on awareness and understanding, but it's not a memorization because it can change so much. I mean, there are plays that we have to memorize, but within the plays, you have to know all the different variables that go into that. You know, you may run the same play 5 times. They may guard it 3 different ways of those 5 times, and so you have to run the same play differently to get what you want out of that. And that's what you're learning. And I think that's kind of where we're at. And you see, some of our offensive, lacking at times. It's not that we're not being intentional. It's that we're just missing that read a little bit. We're missing that coverage read. We're missing that 2-on-1 read, and that just comes with time of learning that. Yeah, but it's not a memorization to your point. Yeah.
Joe, you said something before the last game about how when you're kind of disciplining or coaching young guys in real time, you're not worried about how they're taking it as long as your intent is in the right place.
Yeah.
So do you coach the young guys differently depending on how you've seen them take feedback, or is that not would you talk to Jordan or Josh or Ugo differently in mid-game because of what you've learned about them so far this season?
I think you never treat anyone the same. I mean, you have to treat everyone fairly, but you don't treat them the same. And I think it's just everything's situational. It just depends on the situation. At the end of the day, it's my job to develop a relationship, to let them know that I care about them, to let them know that we have a level of trust, to let them know that winning and growth is the most important thing. There's nothing emotional about it. And then once you have the relationship, you go about different ways depending upon time of season, time of game, type of mistake, growth, where they're at, what do they need. You just have to decipher that throughout. But it mostly comes from, at the end of the day, those guys have a passion to want to get better and get to the next level. And so we have to do it together.
Question for Joe. Ugo looked pretty frustrated with himself after that sequence at the end of the third quarter. What's your message to him after something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to role definition, right? I mean, the losing the ball at half court, that's a tough one. You have to learn how to be able to obviously handle the ball, but we take Ant out for Ugo on the last possession of the quarter knowing we're getting the ball back, and so you only have one ball handler on the court in Jalen, and everyone else isn't one, so that's a little bit of a tough situation, but as you grow, you just can't allow that to happen. But coming in and the defensive possession, just having a clear understanding, your role is to be a great defender, regardless of if it's at the start of the game or when you sub into the game. And so just making that clear and then working towards being able to do that regardless of the situation. So, worked on that today. And again, those guys, they want to get better. So.